Hi, good morning. So this is the first part of a step-by-step build of the 1/48 scale Tamiya British light utility vehicle, or Austin Tilly as it's more commonly known. I've never had anything to do with YouTube before, other than watching, so I don't really know what I'm doing, and this will become apparent as you watch the videos, because there will be gaps, there will be steps in them. I will cough halfway talking, sorry about that. And in general, they'll be pretty jerky and unpleasant, but bear with me, it's part of a learning curve for me. I mean, I've been modelling on and off for probably 40 years. I wouldn't say I was particularly any good at it or proficient at it, but I do enjoy it. So this is just another way of adding another dimension to what I do, really. Hopefully people will pick up some hints and tips along the way, or enjoy having it on as background. If you do, thank you. But in general, it's just going to be a stage-by-stage video of how I've put the Tilly together, painted it, painted it, weathered it, and made a small base for it. So this first part, which you'll see now, is getting the bits off the sprue, doing the initial prep work, and putting the chassis together. This will be followed by the overall assembly with the bodywork, then painting, and I'll be making a little base for it in the end and doing a bit of light weathering. So hope you enjoy it, and this is part one, so thank you for watching. Okay, back to the kit itself. So I've opened this and had a bit of a look around. If you're buying a kit, you can look on ScaleMates. If you search on Google, you'll get ScaleMates. That'll give you reviews of most kits that are out there, but it also gives you a PDF of the instructions, so you can have a little look through and see it's for you. If you live in East Sussex, you're quite lucky that there's a proper model shop now in New Haven. It's Model Works in New Haven. So if you're unsure what you want to buy, if you're just starting out, it seems a bit daunting going to talk to the guys there, because they've been building models for years, but they are hobbyists who own a shop. They're not shopkeepers who sell a hobby. So rather than going into hobbycraft where you get these miles and miles of bland kits, you can go there, you can talk to them, they'll open boxes or show you, and they'll advise you what's suitable for you. So if you really don't know what you're doing, or you want a new project, just chat to the guys and they're fine. So yeah, if you're in East Sussex, again, Model Works is the place to be. The other place to shop a lot at is Kent Models online. That's if I'm buying car kits, but for general day-to-day needing inspiration, popping down to New Haven's an answer. I'm not sponsored by them, there's nothing to do with it, I just shop there, so I thought I'd mention it. But anyway, you've got your kit, you open it up, and this is what we're getting with our Austin. So you've got the body shell, so this is why I like the 48, they're nice and tiny, take up no space. Clear parts, of which we'll have to start on them right away. And the chassis, wheels and other gubbins. Now the first thing I noticed when I looked at the instructions, when I had a pre-look, is the cab. Let's get this polythene bag off. The cab rear section, or canvas tilt, or what we call it, is in two parts, with a seam down the middle. So when you glue these together, the seams tend to reappear after a little while, so you really need to let the glue set and really settle and harden up before you start filling and sanding. We will have to fill that gap a little bit. So what I will probably do now is, before I do anything else, glue this together, then I can set that aside for a week, 2 weeks, just let it the chemicals all set in the glue, let it all harden up, and then we've got a good chance of not having a seam when it's finished. If we glued it, filled it, and came back in a week's time, or painted it straight away, sorry, in a week's time, you'd have a bit of a groove in that joint. If you've done it now and let it all settle down, you can fill it later on, and then everything will be hunky-dory. That didn't make a great deal of sense what I was saying. I do waffle, sorry. So job number one then, we'll get this off the sprue. So nip the sprue cutters out, cut away from the joint, so you end up with a little nub there. Generally speaking, if I'm building anything that's got two halves joined together, I do a lot of motorbike modelling, not that I particularly like motorbikes, I just like building because of the scale. You often get your petrol tank in two halves, so I'll glue that together the moment I get the kit, then put it to one side, so it's all settled down when I need it, then I can fill it and get up to a nice standard. So you've got two options on this. You can have the rolled up tailgate, the flap at the back, or the down flap. I'm going for the down one just because I can't paint wood very well and there's a wooden floor there, so that stops that. So I'll put the transparency in there so they don't get scratched. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough today. This is probably sounding awful. I might say first attempt, so I'm open to criticism. So let's see how these bits fit together. So I'm guessing that little ridge is, yeah, that should sit there, I think, yeah. So what I'll probably do is tape it to the bodywork. I've just realised I'm not wearing my head magnifiers. That's why I can't see very well, sorry. You'll notice a bit of a blur. I always wear a head magnifier these days. My eyes aren't what they once were. Oh, that's better. You can see what I'm doing now. So first thing is we'll get rid of the rest of this sprue gate. So we'll cut that as close as we can without actually impinging it. On this, it doesn't really matter too much if you get a bit of that white frosting. Sorry, just knocking the camera then, because it's you're going to paint it anyway. If there's a window, I cut it back a bit further and just bring it back with a gentle sand. So I'm hoping that's still on camera, is it? Just doing it till I feel that disappear. Nothing too vicious. Just get my skanky fingernail and just, sorry, that one probably went a bit off shot there. Just try and get rid of all that. It's a bit annoying this is split down the middle, to be honest. It's got a texture on it which I probably won't be able to reproduce that well with the paint, but we'll talk about that when we're painting the thing. So my plan is to build this as a video, paint it there, which will probably be off camera because of the noise involved with compressors and airbrushes. I'll tell you what I've got, but I won't actually do that. Then give it a light weathering and build a little base for it to stand on, just to sort of finish it off. I don't often build bases, but I quite like doing it when I do, if that makes sense. So, all right, we're sort of there with that one. Now the back has to fit into, is there a slot for that? How's that? Okay, there's a little location point on that. Not brilliant, actually. Was it? Are we meant to be on the outside? I should really. We'll worry about that one. Let's get this together first. There's this one that we need to be careful. Ugh. I do that a lot. It's this one we need to be a little bit more careful with. So, okay, there's a couple of locating tabs there. So what we're going to do, I'm not bothered if the glue oozes out on this, so I'll use the contact because I want a really strong joint. The end bit is a separate item, so I don't really care too much about that. So that looks messy, but don't forget we're going to sand and sort this bad boy out. So let's just chuck him together. Hold it till it bit, and then we'll just drop it on the body to make sure it does fit. Other models will be looking at this and absolutely screaming. It's just the way I do it. Everyone's got their own ways, I suppose. So I can leave that now for the back piece and glow on later on. I'm not convinced by the fit of that, but we've got a nice bead of glue along the top there, so that'll give us something to clean up. The texture we'll have to try and get back with the primers and the fillers, so I can put that to one side, let that harden up, and then we can work on the body when we have to. Now the other thing I've got is an empty one just off camera, is some project boxes. You can pick them up anywhere, but I got these from Home Basement shutting down. They were knocking them out for a couple of quid each. So any part I've cut off, I'm not going to use right away. That's bits from an old model that's finished. They're no longer required. Let's get rid of them. That's poor, wasn't it? I should have sorted that beforehand. Anything I don't use, I'll lock away here, because I've got a habit of throwing stuff in the bin by accident, which is never good. So that'll be the project box. This, as sub-assemblies are done, they'll be put in there. One thing I won't put in there is things like that canvas tilt, because as the glue's drying, it needs plenty of air for the solvents to evaporate, and that would slow down the drying process. So we've got that bit we've had to have done to let it rest. We've got all our gubbins in there and our decals. We're not too worried about that at the moment. It's not a review as such. The instructions on this are a bit hideous, if I'm honest, with this weird fold round thing. That'll be the markings I want to do, the RAF one. I've seen plenty of reviews where they got the ones with the bunny-eared camouflage on it, and the RAF one just looks a little bit different. So, I mean, the joy of this kit is it was used by all the forces, but after the war they were sold off as surplus, so you could paint it up as a butcher's van, a plumber's van, whatever you wanted. You wouldn't have to do anything militaristic if you didn't want to with this kit. If you look at 1950s street scenes, you see these everywhere. So it looks like this long toilet roll of instructions starts here. So what we're going to start doing is, I like to get all the bits I need for one section, cut off a sprue, and then clean them all up, put them together or pop them in a box ready for assembly. So let's see what we need. Lots of sighing and grunting and groaning, so I'm trying to struggle on with a cold. Let's get that out of the way. Anything I don't need, I'd like to put back in the box. So it looks like everything we're likely to need is in this section here. So we need a floor pan. Again, I'm cutting well away from the model. I can tidy that up later on. It's not a big, wasn't even attached. It's not a big problem to clean it up. It's a big problem if you take a chunk out of it. It's not. I mean, that's the other thing about this. It's fun. Nothing's a problem. If you make a mess of it, it's your model. Who cares? It's sort of the best way to look at it, really. So I'm not really. What have we got? We've got A13, A13. Okay, so we don't have to worry too much whether these springs are the same left and right. If they were handed, I would probably cut them off with the tab on it and glue them on straight away, so I wouldn't get confused. So that's those two little springs. The underside of it as well, I'm not massively worried about the detail of it. No one's ever going to pick it up. It's going to sit on the table, so we don't really need to stress. Am I off camera there? I am a bit sorry. We don't really need to stress too much about detail in the underside, or in my mind we don't. People might disagree, but it's the way I like to work. So we've got the two A13s, we've got the exhaust, we've got the front axle. So if you look at the paint colours here, it's saying that's semi-gloss black. That's whatever the XF56 I think is a metallic. I'm just going to paint the whole lot. The RAF blue, and then detail paint some bits or dry brush if I need it. But I would imagine these weren't sprayed particularly carefully as a wartime product. They were just flung together, paint put over them, and then was sent out the door. So I don't think we need to overly stress about that. There appears to be two axles that appear out of nowhere there without a number, which I'm guessing are these bits and bobs here. clean those up a little bit so they spin. So the four wheels are these ones. Again, they'll need a bit of a clean up. So what I'll do is I'll clean things up and just throw them in that project box. So when I sweep the shavings off the bench, I don't sweep a small part onto the floor. So that. So I'm sure I'm going off shot with all these. I'll have to look later on. Oh, A9 looks like it's a vital bit. That's a steering column. A9, yeah, that's the steering knuckle. So we've got that. We've cut that bit off. We need a bumper, A15. Where are you? A15 is the front bumper. And A16 is the rear bumper. So that should get us a chassis just about complete. I won't be painting the figure, partly because I don't like painting figures, which is quite important, and also you won't be able to see much inside this thing, so we are coming out with an empty vehicle. So we've got the bits we need for stage one. So it's just a bit of a clean up now, I guess, isn't it? So nipping as close as I can to the actual part. I have cut the wrong part off on many an occasion, to be honest. I'm sure we all have. Not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but see if the bumper does fit now, but I've gone too. There's my bumpers. The exhaust wheels. Let's get the big bald head in shot. That would be the rear bumper. Okay, yeah, so. I may have gone a bit too far on that, but we don't care. We'll get away with that, okay? So you have to be careful, and I'm not. So that's that. If I'm one, well, I say this is the first time I've done this. I'm open to criticism, really. I'm just going to have a go. It's all filmed on an iPhone. I've never edited a video before, so this will all be a bit new. I mean, the main reason I'm doing it is to just give me a bit of impetus. There's a tendency for me to not finish things because there's no reason to. I do this to relax after work, really. It's just a way of switching off, and if I don't have to finish something, if I get to a bit of a stumbling block or a loser part, I tend to give up. Whereas if I feel someone at some point in history may watch this, that's actually not a bad shot there. I'm quite happy with that. If someone may watch this, I've got a sort of vested interest in getting it finished. So don't know how much that you see, because then the body sits over that anyway, but that was, sometimes you get a bit of a seam down there, so that seems pretty much done. So as I say, what I'll do, just out of good practice, is as I get bits tidied, because I know what I like, I'll just chuck them in this box so we've got it all together and we know where it all is. So I don't really want the box to be in shot for too long, so if I move that there and move that out of the way. So it's a bit of a bumper. You'll notice on these ones they've got these undershot sprue gates, so in theory, rather than cutting them off, all I need to do is attack them from this face gently, and they don't appear on the visible edge. That's probably the wrong way to do it, but it always works for me. And then just gently attack the back face of it, and you don't get any mark on the underside where it's visible. Okay, seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment to have these undershot things. So it's one bumper. Do the other one when I'm doing bumpers. Again, same on the front. You've got that little bit of a, oh sorry, miles off centre, a little bit of a undershot on there, so you only need to trim the back surface where you can't see it and give it the slightest of tidy ups, and that will sort itself out. I am painfully aware there's millions of better modelers than me on YouTube, this and in the world in general. Really, this is me being me, how I normally work on camera, just to see what I can do. And if more than one person watches this other than myself, I'll be over the moon. Not even bother going and say like and subscribe. If someone just smiles once, I'll be happy. So that one's as good as cleaned up. I've got the little exhaust. Again, no one's ever going to see these things, so how fussy do you want to be? That end you are going to see when it pokes out of the vehicle. I'm working, oh sorry, I'm all over the place. These things are just fiddly, but they're not too bad. Oops, sorry, it's not the camera. I'm wearing a head magnifier and it sticks out a few inches from the front of my face. It's a necessary evil these days, I'm afraid. I can't see anything like I used to. But just I wouldn't use, it's tendency to use a sponge on the round stuff. I'm inclined to only use that once I've got the seam off, just to polish off those little marks, because that tends to conform and it'll make it a funny shape, whereas the sanding stick's quite hard. It's gonna just take off what you want to take off. So this one's a dual. It's got a hard edge and a spongy edge, so you can't buy them anymore. I bought a lot before they stopped producing them, so I'm all right probably for a few years. As I say, typically if I get 5 or 6 models made a year, I've had quite a productive year. I mean, it's just this is something I do in between working, walking the dogs and general life things. That's probably good enough for what we want. So you're not going to see underneath that often. This is where we might need, we're not probably going to use the scraper much on this model. It is actually really, I keep on moving right over here, then I've got a whole bench. If I move my chair, when I go like that, I should just have in shot. But yeah, there's very few. You normally get seam lines down the middle of these, that's skanky dirty now, things like these leaf springs, and that's where you'd use a scraper, because you could get in and just clean it in that way. But we won't need to do that so far on this. It's quite a nice little kit for it. So these are sprue gates, they can go. I think it's just going to be a sanding job, this one, and we should have this chassis together relatively quickly, which is why I like these 48 things, because painting's the bit you get the least practice of, just on the basis that you take quite a long time building a model, but the painting's over a week or so. So if you're building some sort of model every month and a half, you're not painting that often, so you don't get the practice in, whereas you could be building every day in that time. yeah, I'm talking about paint. If anyone's expecting to see period colour match colours, no. I like to use Tamiya paints for the general painting things. I know they're reliable and I know they work the way I work. Get these axles sorted out. I'll use the nearest colour they put in their instruction sheet. As long as it looks right to me, I'm happy, and I don't want to spend £2.50 a pot for paints. If you have to buy all these exotic colours that you're only going to use once, you can, I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 paint colours listed in this model, so I think it was an £18 model, and that's £10 of paint, and you only use a teaspoon, if that, on each one. So I tend to be a little bit guesswork and use colours I've got. I mean, I don't skimp on it to ruin a model, obviously, but I don't really want to break the bank just for a certain shade of green or blue that's not really that important in the grand scheme of things, because who knows what, I mean, colours these, whether a lot of vehicles are washed down, industrial vehicles anyway, and I would imagine military ones the same, are washed down with paraffin, petrol, anything you can get, so that's going to stain the paint right away, so you don't know what colour they ever were. It's all a bit of conjecture, I think. So, oh, again, right off, I'll need to start learning where to sit. Looking at that, there's not a great deal to clean up on this fella. A little bit of a nub there, a little bit of a nub there, a little tickle with a stick. Let's get rid of the worst of that. Yeah, you'll notice my 76's got odd bits cut out and the odd lengths. You tend to use the ends of them all the time, and the middle gets wasted because it never gets used. So this one was yay long, but I'd worn out the ends, so I've cut the middle out of it, and I'm now using the centre of it just to use it up, really. Otherwise you end up with a wasted bit of abrasive in the middle of it you never really play with. So that's the reason they're odd sizes and shapes, and it's easy enough to cut them down to do any job you want them to do, really. So we'll carry on just gently tickling. Probably being a bit aggressive on this, but as I say, I'm never that fussed about the underside of a vehicle. If someone picks up one of my models, well, I'm amazed that anyone's took an interest, but it's just the underside of it. I'm not the sort of person who'll display them on a mirror. This is some sort of steering knuckle by the look of it. So I will do a bit of light weathering and dry brushing just to bring out some details out of interest, but they're not anything that I need to be too fussy about. I'm very much a curbside sort of modeler, unless I'm not. I mean, what I like about the old motorbike modelling is everything's out on display, the whole engine's there, so there you go to town. But on these, when everything's tucked away and hidden away, it seems a bit pointless. And again, I'm never going to enter a competition. I'm never going to be a professional modeler. I'm just someone who likes to unwind at the end of a day and get, well, the wheels are nice as well as not. You normally get a seam right down the centre there, but that's bare minimum on that, so they just need the smallest of cleanups on those. And again, with this being a solid beam axle and it being of a Tamiya quality kit, you know it's going to sit on all 4 wheels, which is quite nice. So I can, while I'm doing this, I can go on a bit of a rant about kits in some respects. I mean, it's the bane of, well, it's not the bane of my life, that's not true. It annoys me if you go into a general hobby store, and it sounds like I'm bashing hobbycraft. You see a lot of cheap kits, so you think, would be ideal for a beginner, and they're not. A lot of them are really old and they've got lots of cleaning up to do to make things fit. The plastic's warped, you know, some date back to the sort of 70s, 60s or 70s, and they're pretty shonky. But because they're sold in a novice-friendly store, and they're cheap, it gives that misleading impression. They're ideal for a beginner. I think that more people must get put off modelling because of the frustration of it. And I don't want to name names because I like Airfix a lot. I grew up making Airfix models, and I've got a lot of time for them, and their new kits are brilliant. But some of their old things, although they're fun to build once you've done it for a bit, they're not ideal if you've never built a kit before. So you'll see an Airfix Spitfire, leap for joy because you never built anything, fancy one on the desktop, and when you get it out of the box, it's blooming horrible. Which is why I think you're better off if you can source your local model shop, and go into chat to the guys there and tell them what you're interested in. They'll more than likely know the best thing for you. So this isn't listed as a beginner's kit as such, but there's nothing hard about it. It's fiddly because it's small, but then that's just dexterity. You know, if you're used to using playing with small bits and pieces, then you're not going to have any real issues putting this together, I wouldn't have thought, if you've never built anything before. The only hard bit is the canvas roof, but you don't even have to have that on, you can display it without it. So yeah, don't necessarily rely on cost being, and a user-friendly make like Airfix being a reason for building a kit. It's not necessarily the right way to go if you're new to the hobby. So I do. So the exhaust looks like it must go there, must lock in there, and must come out of the car there, and it says put that in. Is one of your first things. So let's start putting it together. We'll be using the extra thin for this stuff. It's only when you need a really secure bond like that roof you'll be using the stuff like contact. So all you do is get your brush, touch it on. This is getting rid of, and if you, sorry about the camera wobble there, if you find you're getting a bit low on this and you don't want to waste what's at the bottom of the bottle, just get some stainless steel nuts or ball bearings or something from B&Q and chuck them in there to raise the level, like the Aesop's fable with the crow. It just makes life a lot simpler. Now that little fella there looks like probably needs to glue onto that little nub there. So this runs up anything. If I touch this now, it's likely to reach my armpit, so just make sure your fingers are clear and just touch it on. Hold it for a second, and that should be just enough to hold it in place. I do at times use super glues. It's not always using solvent glues. That's more when you're me and my head thing. It's more when you're dealing with model cars and then you want to put wing mirrors and bright work on. You've already painted the bodywork. That's when I tend to err towards the super glues. That's quite neat the way that goes. Alright, yeah, we'll have that. That one goes in quite well. So just to soften things up, because it's a big area, I'll just pre-glue that slightly. There's a little stub in the middle of that axle that fits in there. It locates on those little points there, so that one flies together. I will have to move the iPhone stand a little bit because I keep on catching it with my head. It must be annoying as heck if you're watching this sort of thing. So I'll just touch a bit of that in there. Touch a bit in there. We can go from a different angle. If we make a mess of this, we just put some mud on it and say it's got damage in the field. That's the joy of military vehicles. And again, if you're newish to modelling, military ones are good because it's all matte paint. You don't, gloss paint shows every little mistake you make, unfortunately. So now I'm guessing these are handy because they've got a long and a short, and we got it right first time. Okay, that's a first. So what I'll do is I'll drop a bit of glue in there just to pre-soften everything, just to get it all started. Same on that side. Sorry about that. Chuck him in there, him in there. Check. He's all right. Oops, realise I've knocked that off and do something about that quick. As I say, this is why I'm under the title The Ham-Fisted Modeler. I do tend to be a bit rushy and a bit clumsy, but it's I'll before I come back after a tea break, I will do something about that. Sorry. It's just the way I roll, really. I model the way I model, and there's no right or wrong way, and I am a bit clumsy, but I always get things looking roughly right in the end. And again, nothing I ever build will ever stand much scrutiny. It's just something I like to do. I tend to find, you know, like most people, work and life gets a bit hectic, and why I'm doing this, I'm not thinking about what I haven't done, what I need to do. I'm just in my own little bubble, and it's quite a nice way to relax. Because why I'm thinking about something as innocuous and boring as a bit of plastic, I'm not really yeah, I'm still on camera, but I have to check. I'm not really thinking too much about what I've got to do at work tomorrow and what I said I'd do in the way of DIY and overdrafts and mortgages and all that sort of thing. You get sort of lost in that zone, and just helps you unwind, really, I find. Anyway, it's that's why I do it. It's not any great urgency to have a small Austin Tilly in my life. It is mainly just to find something that isn't just watching telly. If you kind of even pick up on that, it's even got little rivets in that. So once we paint it and wash it, those little rivets will come out really, really nicely, I think. Now this one, I think I cut off the location tab, so we're just going to be a bit guessworky on this one. Let's put a bit of glue just on the tip of that. Ah, sorry. And then we'll get the bumper and roughly line her up. And that should be enough to hold it. And providing that's level and it's the same on both sides. I mean, the location is a location, but it's not the end of the world if it's not there, because you've got things like eyeballs that help you do that anyway. So you can get away with it once you've made a monumental error like I did. That's all right, we're back in there, we're back in business. Just touch a bit of glue on it, just make sure you don't get your fingers anywhere near it. But again, if you do, you do. That's why they invented filler. So I'm not a million miles out on that. Ooh, hello. I'm hoping I can just take this off the body and just, well, I'll leave it on the body for now. Just see if that does. Not sure how this cab's meant to. Yeah, the bumper lines up okay. So it's worth checking at that point. before I went too much further. Take this off without wrecking anything. And I shall take that canvas tilt off before I finish, and we can just, there's a couple more bits to go. We can, oh, I lost a bit already. See, I told you this is what I do. I lose things. Ah, there it is. This little steering rack thingy bob. There's a couple of little nuts on there, which is quite a nice bit of detail. Just make sure there's no marks on there. That must want to sit. Oh no, they're not actually. They're location pins. Sorry, I thought they were little castellated nuts. Just put a little dab in there. I say little dab. That's quite a big dab, but it flashes off quite quick. So far, I say that I do have to use the tweezers now because that's all over the place. So when I'm raving about these tweezers, I want to just make it clear, everything I own I've bought myself. I've never tried to scrounge anything in the way of, well, this is the first time I've attempted a video, but I've never done it. Oh, I'm a YouTube person, give us a discount. I just buy tools I like and that work for me, and that's what these are. So when I was raving about Model Works before, again, no ties to Model Works other than I go in there, I chat to the guys who own it, and they're really nice guys, and they sell me model kits at the retail price, and I happily buy them because I'm happy to give them my business. That's all it is. But there's definitely a lot to be said for a proper model shop. So if you find one, don't let it go, because once it's shut, you'll never get it back. So that bumper should, a couple of location tabs. It's got a slight curve on that one, so more important to get it right. But it's in the location tabs. Give it a little touch where it joins. And that should hold everything together reasonably well. I mean, you can use this stuff after you've painted, but again, the joy of a military model is you can paint it all in one go, because that tends to be how they're done in reality, and you'll get a far stronger bond doing this on bare plastic. It will cut through paint and glue things together, but then you've got to weigh up, is it worth gluing things bare paint and masking them if you need to, or is it worth doing like this, not caring and hosing everything on? So I'm more of a hose person. So okay, so that's the chassis almost complete. We've got wheels and axles. I think on this kit the wheels are all the same. If you're doing something like a Jeep, you have to be a bit careful. The back wheels and Land Rovers are the same. Back wheels are different to front because of the four-wheel drive. Those axles go in. I will glue an axle on one side, but not the other, I think, on this, because it's going to make it easier to paint. The wheels will paint off the van. I thought that might be the case. Yeah. Are they? Have they got a different? Oh no, they are different wheels. Actually, they are different. Yeah, so to be careful. These more of an offset on one side than the other, I suspect. I need to look at the instructions. Yeah, the back wheels have got that longer boss. The front wheels haven't. I think the axles are the same size. Let's double check that. Yeah, the axles are the same size, so these wheels don't go in as far at the front. So let's be bold. Let's just glue that on. So we'll only do one side, so we can paint the wheels individually. When I paint, I won't show the painting, I'll explain how I've done it. I tend to paint the backs of the wheels black anyway, and not worry about the colour going through, because they're all going to be in shadow anyway, aren't they? Who's going to notice if you've meticulously painted it bronze green or something? So the wheels are definitely different front and rear, and that's the front set in. So the chassis on this is very, very quick to do by the look of it. Just chuck a bit in there. I could put the contactor in that, to be honest, but I won't. I don't really want it oozing out. I don't want the wheels to spin so it rolls around on the desk, and I probably will glue the axles when it's done so it doesn't roll off a shelf and break if I keep it. But because I want to take them out to everywhere on this one, because I want to take it out, I'm off to paint them. I don't want to get glue in the wrong place. So to be honest, this is why this would make a good beginner's model. Big, small and fiddly. That's the body shell done, and it's ready to go. The seats and gear lever, can we see that? Seats and gear lever are painted a different colour, so I'll put them in later on. The seats, I tend to ignore anything they say, and I'll paint them a sort of red brown colour so it looks like reddish leather. That I'll do a satin black, just spray that on. So I'm not going to have a driver. Steering wheel will be satin black. So that's probably a good point for a bit of a tea break, really. The body needs a little nub coating off the front. We won't put the glass in until after it's painted. Rear jump seats we'll chuck in later on. Dashboard, where does that fit? Okay, so that goes in the body, but I think we can get the glass in with the dashboard in. I won't bother with the painting the dials, you'll never see them inside there. So we've got a tailgate to go on the back of the body, which we'll look at a bit later on, so that we know we've got everything lined up with this canvas tilt. I just want this to set up a little bit more. Fits up quite nicely actually. Don't think there's any glue there, no. It's been on. We just need to make sure we can get these seams out later on. It's going to be a bit of a pain actually. And we need to make sure that rear tailgate fits on with the canvas top. But yeah, we can, while I have a quick tea break, we'll leave this that extra half hour, then we'll put that to one side. So I'm not going to put it in the project box because I want that to gas out. I was waffling a lot earlier, but basically as that glue evaporates, it's a solvent, it's melted the plastic stays soft, solvent washes away, and you'll get a little groove there. We want to fill that probably tomorrow, let it all settle, then let it do the same thing again and all the solvents come out of the filler. And we probably have to do that 2 or 3 times, and that seam will disappear. If you do it too soon, or you don't let each layer fully harden, you'll end up with you'll be perfect one day, you'll paint it, then you'll get a divot appearing down there. Most people refer to it as a ghost seam, but it's the longer you can leave that to settle down, the more holistic that whole piece of plastic becomes. But what worries me a bit, and why we're going to be careful, is you can see these nice creases that are folded in, and we're going to have to take that ridge out and make it disappear. So I'll probably use something like a Mr. Surfacer for that, but we'll talk about that when I do it. We will lose that nice sandblasted texture, unfortunately, but that might come back if we spray this from a distance away, so the paint's dry in mid-air. You might get that textured finish. There's other things we can do, but we'll worry about that later on. I'll have a little break now. Yeah, with that, again, this is an example of it reaching overhead. This is a petrol tank from a Kawasaki I'm going to build, and I might build it on video if anyone can put up with me. I mean, I'm boring myself at the moment. So I bought the kit 2 or 3 months ago. The first thing I did was got that fuel tank out of the box, glued it down the centre, and just left it because the longer I leave it, the less likely that it's not less likely the seam will come back. The seam will come back, but the more likely I'll catch the seam and be able to fill it before I commit to gloss paint. And with gloss paint, it's really obvious. This one will be able to get away with it because it's a bit matte, the paint, so that'll need a couple more sandbacks and leave it, and it'll probably be another month or 2 before I even start putting primer on this. So that joint will be solvent free and as good as it's going to get. with no shrinkage. So that's why I tend to do that as early as possible, give everything a chance to bed in. That's a little bit of waffle. So what I'm going to do now is hopefully switch this off with the weird freaky remote control. Again, didn't use half the tools I said I would, so really if you're novice looking at it, you definitely need something to cut the things off the sprue, which is, say, can be nail clippers, nail cutters. You definitely need sanding sticks as such, which can be popped down to boots and get some from the nail care counter. I used the tweezers once, so you may or may not use tweezers. And as yet, I haven't used the knife, but that when we are using knife, we don't use that to cut things off the sprues. It's just things like these little nubs here. When they get close to the edge, you can just gently whittle them back rather than sand them back. There's nothing to stop you gently doing that to get rid of them. So that's the real reason for the knife. It's scoring things, it's cutting back these little bits. It's never cut off the sprue with it, because if you strain the plastic and it snaps, it stretches before it snaps, so you can't just glue things back together once you've snapped them off. You'll have a bit of a distorted component. So the knives are more for doing things like that, and just paring off edges like that, where you want to get rid of all traces of attachment points. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too painful to watch. I shall switch off, download this to a computer so I can try and edit it later on into some sort of sensible format, and then be back and we'll put the body together. And yeah, I mean, putting this together looks like it's an hour's job really. So thanks for watching so far, and I'll be back soon.